welcome you to New York City, in the belly of the news beast. We are in the shadow of the Freedom Tower. We are just north of historic Trinity Church's historic cemetery. 9 signers of the Declaration buried in that cemetery. And we've also got Alexander Hamilton, our nation's first treasurer, if you will, and just a very historic place to be from. And now that the Freedom Tower is getting closer and closer to being officially open, going to be increasingly historic in the days to come. It is exciting, and if you ever do make your way to New York, I do hope that you will drop us a note and say, Kev, we're coming to the city. Can we come by and see the show? We've got room for a few folks in the studio, and it's always fun to kind of give you the little tour and show you the cemetery and talk about the kind of the way Lower Manhattan has changed, particularly since 9/11, when it was the first year I visited New York City. I did not know that I would be calling it my broadcast home just a few years later. But glad to be here. Kevin McCullough is my name. My phone number is 888-589-8840, 888-589-8840. 1 year ago, we began this broadcast, began hosting this broadcast, and the month of May indicates that. And something that I like to do is I like to check in on a regular basis and ask you to assist me in doing my job. Now, this gives a lot of people that are mean carte blanche, but it also gives people that are carefully concerned about the broadcast the opportunity to do this. But I am proclaiming the month of May email month. Now, this isn't for everybody on the network. It's just for this broadcast. But what I'd like you to do is drop me a paragraph or two about your experience with this broadcast, how you've used it, what types of ways do you pattern your life after it, and why. Many of you do this on an occasional basis, but I want you to put some proactive thought into it. And it doesn't matter if it's a good critique, a bad critique, a mediocre critique. It doesn't matter at all. At the end of the month of May, I'm going to draw a name from all of the people that have emailed, and we're going to give an entire collection of all 3 of my best-selling books, all wrapped up with a bow and a personal note from me, just as my way of saying thank you for participating. We'll give one of those packages away. Just draw a name at the end of email month. But since we began May 1st, I thought this would be the perfect time to jump back into the fray and ask you to give me your good, your bad, your ugly, because I want to be dedicated to making sure that we serve your needs every single day. All right, so having said that, we have the phone lines open, 888-589-8840. Here's some of the stories that I've been watching for you today. We just learned yesterday that the oversight committees in both the House and the Senate got a little surprise 2 weeks ago. In fact, 2 weeks ago, you had the administration running around saying, the Benghazi investigation's been concluded. It's all done. And see, nothing was there. There's no there. There's nothing to look at any further. Turns out that according to the Daily Beast, which is not a conservative website, has learned that the latest emails were provided to the House Committee on Oversight and the Government Reform Committee just 2 weeks ago, despite requests from the committee for that material dating back to as far as August of 2013, which was nearly a year after the attack. Frederick Hill, who is the committee's deputy staff director, said that even as congressional Democrats were calling for an end to the Benghazi investigation with claims that everything had been turned over and examined, the committee's deputy staff went on to say it is disturbing that this highly important email showing a White House role in pushing a false narrative was only turned over after it was discovered by the department's Freedom of Information Office in response to the specific request. And while he had promised cooperation by hiding subpoena documents from Congress, Secretary Kerry is failing to meet his obligations. It has been a bad week for Secretary Kerry. Because if it does turn out that he hid a document that implicated the White House in the development of the talking points that caused Dr. Susan Rice to go on 5 networks and lie to the American people to their face. I mean, bold-faced. This isn't mild misunderstanding. We had some things that showed this and some things that showed that. This was perfectly manipulated from the very beginning. And if it turns out that John Kerry had any role to do with hiding the document, remember, he wasn't Secretary of State when it happened. But since he is Secretary of State now, he has an obligation to be as compliant with every Freedom of Information Act that his department gets served with. If it turns out that he did, in fact, hide this, I think that's grounds for removal from his position. But on top of that, what a dunderbrain earlier this week saying that Israel was an apartheid state. I mean, this guy has had a rough time this week. You don't want to call our number one ally in the universe an apartheid state, especially when it's not even remotely close to being true. And if you don't believe me, come with me in October. I'm going to take a trip to Israel. I'll show you for yourself. You won't find anything. You know who loves living in Israel more than any other single group of people? And I mean passionately. They don't want to leave. They don't want to live anywhere else. It is the Palestinian people that are in the Palestinian camps. Why? Because when stuff goes down and it gets ugly, the Israeli army come and protect them. The Israeli police come in and resolve matters that they can't resolve on their own. And they could move to Jordan. They could move to Lebanon. They could go to Egypt. They could go to other places just over the border. They would rather live in settlements in the land of Israel under Israeli rule than they would being put under Arabs or other Palestinians. Nobody talks about that, but it is a major component to the whole process there. And for John Kerry, I'm John Kerry reporting for duty, except for Freedom of Information Act stuff. I'm not gonna play that game. We'll just hide that piece of paper right over here somewhere. And by the way, Israel is apartheid. Very bad week for Secretary of State Kerry. Very bad in every way. All right. I also wanted to get to this. A new poll is out. Some of you like to play fun with me on Facebook. I know that. I know that you wake up in the morning, and I'm not going to name any names, Janet. That you wake up in the morning and you can't wait to take a little toothpick and start like poking me in the eyeball with it on Facebook, just a poke there and just like poke again and you're just hoping that at some point I'm just going to lose it and go postal on you, and I never do. But the pokers have been poking around for a while, telling me, Kev, you're all wrong about the Affordable Care Act. You got it all backwards. It's not unpopular. In fact, it's a home run. In fact, the majority of people are saving money on it. There's so many people that are saving money since the Affordable Care Act. You're just this narrow-minded right-wing guy. You don't know what you're talking about. Oh, Facebook pokers, eye pokers on Facebook. Listen carefully. By the way, Brent, remind me after the show. I want to patent that term, Facebook eye pokers. I think that's a good term. We should patent that sucker and make some money off of it somehow. I'm kidding. But a brand new poll put out by Health Policy and Strategy Associates. I don't know if it's a partisan polling group. I don't know who they're associated with. This just appeared in the Washington Post today. So I'm just telling you what the Washington Post had. 35%, new Obamacare policies, that's the Affordable Care Act. Some of you get mad when I say Obamacare. You poke at me on Facebook about that too. Don't call it Obamacare, it's the Affordable Care Act. Okay, fine. The Affordable Care Act, the new Affordable Care Act policies cost roughly 35% more, and that increase comes in the form of higher premiums and higher deductibles and narrower networks. What do those last three things have to do with it? Higher premiums, that's the money you're paying up front to get the policy. Higher deductibles, that's how much you have to pay out of pocket before you get any help from the coverage. And narrower networks means fewer doctors. So you're paying 35% more. You're paying that in the form of a higher premium. You're paying that in a bigger deductible before you start to get coverage, and you're getting fewer people that will actually take your insurance. Sounds like a win to me. Anyway, in the latest Washington Post poll, 58% of consumers said the new law is causing higher costs. Only 11% report a reduction. And that meshes with a new Kaiser poll that found the most common reason for remaining uninsured was not being able to find an affordable plan. I'm not making this up. There's 3 polls out today, all showing Affordable Care Act's more expensive, and you get less for it. But you do get other things for it that you've always wanted. For instance, if you're a male and someday you want to have a gender authorization surgery so that you're still going to be male because you're born male, but you will look like a woman on the outside if you had that surgery. And just in case you get pregnant and you decide you want to have an abortion, the Affordable Care Act insurance policies can have that for you. Now, I don't even know if that's biologically possible. I don't. How could it be? But if for whatever reason it's possible, O-Care's got you covered, man. You're all set. You want to become a woman, have an abortion, Obamacare's got it for you. All right, let's see. A couple of other things before I want to get to the main issue today, which I will tell you about from, well, we'll get to that in a second. This little bit of good news, and One News Now was all over this. The Fifth Circuit U.S. Court of Appeals this last Monday heard a case regarding the new Mississippi law that is designed to do what the Texas law did that we talked about last year that I thought was incredible. Now, in Mississippi, there's a law that if it survives the court case, you won't have to go to someone who will cut on you that doesn't have hospital credentials. And I think the very least we can do, if we're going to tell this satanic, straight from the pit of hell lie to women that they should go and kill their preborn child that's already living and fully forming and developing and riding the bicycle in her tummy and everything else, if we're going to tell them that it's good to go do that, the least we should do by way of safety for women is to make sure they're getting treated by someone that actually has passed his medical boards, and for the most part, the medical boards that will get him into a hospital. See, I don't think it's pro-woman to send women to medical flunkies to get their children removed from their womb. I know I'm crazy that way. I know it feels like, Kevin, you're about as nutty as a sports team owner, because you're not willing to say that women should go to garages and have surgical procedures with rusty tools from guys that couldn't pass their medical exams. I know I am such a sexist man for thinking that way. But that's the way. I don't think you should send the women to the garage to get the thing. I think that the guy should have greater ability to operate than from a Jiffy Lube if he's going to do a medical procedure on a woman. Kevin McCullough, glad you're with us. And I'm sorry if I just insulted Jiffy Lube. I entirely did not mean to. It's 19 past the hour. This is AFA Today on AFR Talk.